Privileged to be in this round table because here we are representative of different groups, global policies, national level policies, civil society, children and young people. And that is something critical when we want to work in children's rights and children's participation. So just I want to tell you a little bit about how I position myself and how we position my organization, World Vision International, regarding children's rights and child participation. So for us, it's human rights, it's not a concession for adults. When people talk about the importance of children's participation, say, this helps children to become good citizens in the future, a sense of belonging, being beloved, etc., which is a very important outcome. The outcome of participation. The important thing is participation is a human right. And that means countries have an obligation to fulfill that right and to create a space for children and young people to feel safe, to participate, and the spaces need to be provided. So from this perspective, we are very interested in looking at new practices or program that address some consistent issues in terms of limitation for children's participation. So when we think in the convention 30 years ago, the problems that we have in that time to ensure children's participation are almost the same now. So consistent list of tokenism, lack of sustainability, lack of feedback, problem with issues about who is included, excluded, etc. And then when you see the analysis of programs, sometimes we're still talking about the same things after 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, maybe last week. But as well, at the same time, we have identified very important promises and practices that have challenged those problems and have solutions to that. And so we can say we are not starting from scratch, but we need to look at those challenges and address those in a very professional manner in order to say this is our new strategy for children's participation. And other thing is in terms of the challenges, it normally is about the children, or about the methodology, about the ethical consideration. So first, we say it's not a problem about children. Most of the children, not all, but most of the children will be most interested in engaging in public debate in terms of issues that are relevant to them. If they're relevant to them as well, it's a decision of children and young people. It's not just they're not just interested in education or recreation. They're interested in many of the topics that affect their life. So that's important, and every time I travel from Africa, America, Asia, etc., they told me they really want to participate in many different issues. So the children are there. It's not an issue about that. The second is about the ability or the capacity of children to engage. It's nothing about their capacity. It's about the adults that have the capacity to understand or listen to children. Children have proved they have all the skills to do that. Just they need very sensitive methodologies that adapted to cultural context, age, or different language, etc. The third one is in terms of the method. It's another say, we cannot do it because we don't have good methodology, which is wrong. We have many good methodology that have been developed and proved and used by many organizations, and we can learn from that. Just we need to Google, adapt it, and we can implement it. So one of the things we say, so if we have these three elements, we say it's not about children. The children have all the ability and the desire to participate. We have methods. So how we can go to the next level is something that we have been exploring. Is about the child-led methodologies or approach to children's participation. So I want to share with you three approaches that we have implemented, that we don't own the processes because having as well a contribution for many organizations, but we have taken this learning and we implement it. One is child-led research, child-led innovation, and child-led mobilization. I'm going to give you an example of each one. Child-led research is a process when children and young people decided to do their own research, from selecting the topic, developing research questions, and conducting the field work, analyzing the data, writing a report, and disseminating the finding, the whole process. Where they go through this process with the support, maybe sometimes with adults or not, but they are managing the process. They are doing the analysis. If the adults they don't have the power, they don't manage the process, just they facilitate when it's needed. This is the case of Romania, we have that in Sri Lanka, in Sierra Leone, in Brazil, etc. With the great results where the children identify issues that may be relevant for academic institutions or maybe not for NGOs or civil society, but for them are very important, and they are able to access to this information in a very easy way because they were interviewing their partners, their peers, sorry. And there, with this finding, they do advocacy campaigning and making a change, contributing to change society. The second one is child-led mobilization. One is the case of Bangladesh, when children of the child parliament decided to do a campaign to stop child marriage. So they mobilize themselves, they organize, they prepare a system to identify cases when girls are going to be married off, which happen in a few days. It's not like they have 3 months warning. Normally, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Child marriage is illegal in Bangladesh, but when the parents want to do this, they do this in a very quick fashion in order that just to arrange the marriage, and then the police cannot do anything. They mobilize themselves, all the peers, but as well they mobilize powerful adults in the community, like a police officer, local law enforcement, or a school director. And in a time of 2 years, they have stopped 600 marriages. This tells us that when the children organize themselves, when they have one motivation, and that motivation related to their problems becomes so powerful. My time is fine? Okay, I'm going to close. So, and then from learning of that, so what made the difference? Because we say, okay, child approaches are very important. We don't say, first, is the highest level of participation. No, we say it's one level of participation. It depends on the context, can be good or not, and the children decided that. But what made the difference? One is conversation, is no consultation. It's dialogue between children and young people and adults. It's an intergenerational dialogue, which makes a big difference in terms of it's not just consulting, asking a question with no feedback, no follow-up. This is a dialogue where children present their ideas, but as well they have their actions. Second is a relationship between children and adults, especially with decision makers. So that relationship makes very important and very effective the process. And the last one is more about leadership. Children become a leader in the community if they have the ability to promote things that are very important for them and for their peers. But as well, they are supported by adults leaders who open spaces for them. In conclusion, I can say the children's participation, the problem are not the children, and not the ability, and not the spaces, and not the capacity, are the adults. And the adults need to give up power, and adults need to change strategies, process, spaces, everything that limit children's right to participate. Okay, thank you so much.